Good morning, afternoon, good evening. Oh, that's the greetings from a film, and I can't remember what that film is. Somebody maybe remember it. The film where Jim Carrey gets watched. Hello, everybody.
Truman Show.
Welcome. Thank you. The Truman Show. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Hello, everybody. As you're all joining the Protected Seas and Hub Ocean Ocean Data Platform webinar, we'll give it a few minutes for everybody to join before we kick things off. And good stuff. Maybe we could just mute your microphone since I hear a little bit of background noise, but great to see a lot of people joining, and we'll have a few more join in a few minutes, I'm sure. So I guess I could just start with a little bit of an introduction to the webinar today as people are coming in. So we've organized, actually this is the second time that we've organized this webinar. One was a few weeks ago, which was for more of a European time zone audience, and this is for more of a US time zone audience. So happy if we have some returning people and new faces, very much welcome. The purpose of the webinar today was to introduce you all to the Protected Seas Navigator dataset and tool, which Virgil, the director, will present in a few minutes, and then also to show the how we are working together as a partnership to bring that data onto the Ocean Data Platform to give people access to that data in a slightly different way. And so the format of the webinar is going to be presentation from Virgil on Protected Seas Navigator. Then I'll give a short presentation and a demo of Hub Ocean and Ocean Data Platform. And then we'll do there'll be time for question and answers sort of in the sort of latter third of the meeting. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, say hello. We've got a few colleagues both from Protected Seas and Hub Ocean on the line. So if you have any questions as we're going through the webinar, you can always just put those directly into the chat. And if we have somebody on hand who's able to answer that question, we can do that in the chat, or we can also do it in the question and answer session. So feel free to be active participants. We could also open up for actual real questions at the end. So with a few sort of introductions there, I didn't say my name, which is a classic thing I always do in these webinars. I'm Tom, the Ocean Governance Manager from Hub Ocean, and you're all very welcome. I think what I'm going to do now, after a few minutes of everybody joining, is give the floor over to Virgil, the Director of Protected Seas, to give a few introductory remarks about what Protected Seas Navigator is and how it's been used, and it's a really interesting tool. So over to you, Virgil.
All right. Well, thanks, Tom, and the Hub Ocean team for inviting us on this webinar. We're excited to be here. I'm Virgil Zetterland. I'm Director at Protected Seas and Chief Technology Officer, and excited to talk about Protected Seas Navigator today. So let me get my screen share going. All right. So Protected Seas, we're a private US-based organization, and our main mission is to help empower marine conservation through data and information. And Navigator is one of our two principal projects, which is a guide to the regulatory seascape. In a nutshell, Navigator is a global open access spatial database of area-based marine protection measures. And there's a lot packed into that fairly concise description, so we'll unpack that a little bit. It's unique in that it's the only global database platform that we're aware of with comprehensive regulations for marine protected areas, as well as a large number of other area-based management tools globally. We're pulling in the types of information we pull in relate to spatial planning, including area-based conservation measures, fisheries. We assess level of fishing protection for each of these areas. We try to collate management plans, create lists of prohibited and restricted activities, species of concern, and a lot of other information. We've built Navigator to meet the FAIR principles. We want it to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and ultimately reusable for the widest audience possible. And as of today, we have data for over 25,000 areas and over 220 countries and territories worldwide. At a base level, our organization is organized by countries and territories. So besides individual area info, we do have basic statistics around area coverage based on level of fishing protection, which is one of our key regulation strength metrics. We cross-reference the WDPA and their coverage statistics for MPAs. And, we do translate into local languages. So all of our text-based information is available both in English and the native languages. And then drilling down into the individual areas, which is really where the power is. So this is a key list of our attributes for fishing gear, fishing type, and non-fishing human activities. So for every area navigator, each one of these 37 things is going to be marked as restricted, prohibited, allowed, or unknown, or not applicable. In bold are new attributes that we've added in our version 2 review, which is in process. To date, we've published quite a bit of Europe and some other countries in our version 2, and we're working feverishly as a team to complete global coverage, hopefully next year, and adding all these new activities and extra detail. We wanted, in creating Navigator, oh, okay, they said it dropped off. Let me reshare. Yeah. Technical difficulties. So it looks like, Tom, your team, I lost the share button, and it's giving me a organizers and presenters error.
Okay. Let me just see if we can fix that on our side. Sive, I don't know if you're able to fix it. If not, Virgil, you did also send me your presentation. So if I can find that and just load it up, then we can try and do that. Let's see. I hope it's the same one as a few weeks ago.
Yes, it is.
Good. Okay.
Pretty close anyway.
Close enough. Let's try and okay. Oh. Oh. Just give me a second, Virgil. I'm just figuring out how to do a here it is. I'll just have to zoom into the right kind of size and then hopefully get that to be
Yes.
Okay. I might just do this for now. Just let me know when I get this one.
Keep going. And level, there we go. So level of fishing protection. So one up.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we started Navigator, one of the things we really wanted to be able to do is be able to compare strength of regulation where it relates to marine life extraction in a consistent way, area by area across the globe. So we created this 5-level level of fishing protection score and have applied it consistently in all of our reviews. And what it, boiled down, level 4 and 5 are what most would consider highly or fully protected from fishing. It's where all extraction is prohibited or mostly prohibited with few exceptions. Level 3 is interesting. Level 3 are basically areas that prohibit or strongly regulate commercial extraction and particularly industrial fishing methods. Level 2 are typically fisheries management areas or areas that really just have very targeted restrictions, maybe for a particular species or particular gear type. Important to note, but in and of themselves, not very strong. And then finally, level 1s are what many would call paper parks. These are areas where at least the fishing restrictions within the boundary really are indistinguishable from the restrictions in the larger area. All right, Tom, if you want to go down to the next one. There is a significant amount of regulatory overlap. And so by capturing more than just marine protected areas and bringing in these other management tools, we're helping enable a more holistic analysis across these different types of jurisdictions and management authorities. Again, really trying to answer, at any point in the ocean, what's the sum total of human activity management? Next slide. And again, this overlap is pretty common. Here's an example spot in New Zealand that had 21 different overlapping measures. This is the restrictions view in our public website at map.navigatormap.org. Easily lets you see all the overlaps at a point, as well as individually what their restrictions are, and then how those roll up into sort of a maximum level of restriction. Next slide. And then to give sort of a case study for Navigator, and again, this is sort of using Navigator data mostly on its own as a jumping off point for Tom to show how you might sort of do this, plus add a lot of extra information that's on the Ocean Data Platform. If we look at New Zealand, we have in Navigator, we have over 1,500 individual areas, including subzones. Of those, about 150 are official marine protected areas, with the rest being not marine protected areas. So, lots of management, clearly. If you want to scroll down. If we do a heat map of overlapping site count across the exclusive economic zone, there's a maximal overlap of 32 measures in those sort of high population areas, or at least highly managed areas in the cutout. But on average in New Zealand waters, there's almost 7 overlapping measures at any point. Next slide. If we take this and sort of say, okay, for all of these overlaps, if we add up, of our 22 fishing categories that we code against, if we add these up across overlaps, there's an average of 14 and a maximum of 22. So basically 22 where, every form of fishing is at least restricted. Next slide. And then again, if we compare the cumulative versus the individual contribution, again, what we find is at least in New Zealand, on average, these cumulative restrictions add about 4 more restrictions per point in the ocean than looking at any single individual site alone. So again, there is additive management here that's summing up to something larger than just the individual areas on their own. Next slide. And also interesting is one challenge we face is when our legal team reviews the regulations and management plans. We're looking at these 22 different types of fishing, 15 types of human activities, and a large number of those for any given management plan or regulation may be unmentioned, so are unknown. So we don't know. Is it unmentioned because it's allowed? Is it unmentioned because that activity just doesn't occur in that spot, so no one thought to regulate it? But again, if we look across these overlapping areas, we actually reduce those unknowns on average by at least 4 out of that 37, and sometimes in this case as many as 12. So by having all this information together, again, our composite or holistic understanding of the regulation is improved. And with that, again, thank everybody for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Tom to show how we're integrated in the Ocean Data Platform.
Thanks very much, Virgil. And let's see, I've got a more technically challenged presentation, so we'll see if that one works. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen and give just a brief overview about Hub Ocean for those of you who don't know who we are, and then I will just jump straight into the what Hub Ocean, what Ocean Data Platform is, and how we're working with protected seas. So this is my moment to shine with technology. Looks as though, yeah, so just a few slides on who we are. Hub Ocean is a non-profit tech foundation based in Norway, but we operate globally. We want to work to compel people to make better decisions that are going to steer a better course for ocean health, and we do that through providing fit-for-purpose data. The main way that we do this is with a platform that we're developing called the Ocean Data Platform. It's a cloud-based geospatial platform that we've designed to allow people to access data sets like ProtectedSeas Navigator, and I'll show you that and some other ones on the platform in a little bit, and also for the ability for people to upload their own data to the platform, share it with colleagues and collaborators, or also publish it into a public catalog as well. That's the left side of the diagram. On the right side of the diagram are ways that people can interact with the platform right now. So we have a few first-party tools, one being the website that I'm going to show you, and also some certain types of applications. We also are able to connect the platform to workspaces like Jupyter Lab environment, and we actually host a Jupyter Lab environment on the platform. But you can also use it with Google Colab or GitHub Codespaces, and we have a couple of SDKs that we published. One is Python SDK, the other is an R SDK, and we're also developing a few others. You can also connect the platform to GIS tools through a OGC Features API, and also we enable visualizations through Vector Tiles API. So there's a couple of different ways of working with the platform depending on the use case that you have. So in the demo that I wanted to show today, we're going to be focusing obviously on ProtectedSeas Navigator and how you would find that in the platform. And then how you would work with that data on the platform, whether that's in the website or using, in my case, the Python SDK. And I'm also going to show a little bit about how you can upload your own datasets to ODP and how that's kind of interesting for working with for example, like the ProtectedSeas Navigator dataset. And if you would like to follow along, we'll probably post a link to the app in the chat. So it's very easy to sign up, and I can show you how to do that. You can also log in with your phone. It's not optimized for phones, but you can do it. It does work. I've tried it. So with that, what I'm going to do is just jump straight over to the web app itself. So this is the landing page. I'm already logged in, but if you're not logged in and you haven't got an account, it's quite easy to do. You just click up here, create an account. You enter a few details like your email, get a verification code, password, obviously, and register. And then you're up and away, and you can follow along with this. I'll just sign in, and this is something that always definitely doesn't work when I do live demos, is logging into the platform. So let's try and get in with my password manager. Hopefully now playing ball. There we go. So now I'm in the platform, and you can see here that I did have access to the catalog before, but now I have access to a few other things, which is the My Data Space and the workspaces. So how would we find ProtectedSeas Navigator? It's in the public catalog, so you just navigate there. It's the top hit. So I will do some other examples of data that you can find in the platform before coming back to ProtectedSeas. So for example, we have some other data sets on coral reefs, Allen Coral Atlas you might be familiar with. We have also many other types of coral data, and I would just encourage you to test this one out. You can find things like temperature data. There's lots of different things, but we're interested in the ProtectedSeas Navigator data today, and this is the focused data set that we publish of ProtectedSeas Navigator. It sits in a collection. I'll just zoom out a little bit. So there are two data sets within this collection. The first one is the complete global dataset V2 that Virgil was discussing and talking about. And this is everything that we get from Protected Seas. We keep that pipeline up to date, so you always get access to the latest version of that dataset. And this focused area-based protections is a slight subset of that global data set. And by that, we describe it in the metadata here that we filter out the jurisdictional authority areas, which includes things like EEZs or terrestrial waters. So this is much more focused on purely the area-based protections. We also filter out fisheries management areas. If you want those, they're in the main global data set. So all data sets on ODP have this metadata, including a citation. There's also other metadata. For example, here we have links to the navigator, so you can go back and you can look at Protected Seas' navigator there, the methodology that they use to develop the level of fishing protection score, and also data attributes. We also provide the license, the provider, and in this case, we can see that it's a subset of the global data set. All datasets on ODP have an UID, unique identifier, if you want to access it via an API, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But for now, we'll just focus on the dataset in the sort of the GUI, the nice front end. So as Virgil said, they code for many, many different aspects of marine protected areas. There are 87 columns in this dataset. I'm not going to go through all 87, but just to say, you know, there's the things that you would expect, like the site name, the country, the geometry. Obviously, if you wanted to actually see what the shape of that marine protected area is, you need the geometry, or if you want to do things like spatial joins, you need to use the geometry. And then as you sort of work your way down this list, you can see that there are a number of other really interesting things, like links back to the regulation where the marine protected area is regulated, which is really, really rich. We can also see that there are things like species of concern, so what the marine protected area was designed to protect, the year that it was established. And then as we move down the list, we start to see, the level of fishing protection here. And if I wanted to find out more about that, I can see in the tooltip the methodology that Protected Seas have developed to create this score. And then further down, we have all of those different codings for things like whether bottom trawling is allowed or not allowed in an area. Many focus on fisheries, but there's more beyond fisheries. There's things like aggregate extraction, things related to shipping, for example, whether vessel stopping is allowed, whether anchoring is allowed, whether dredging is permitted or not. So there's a huge amount of information here in the data set, and I would encourage you in your own time to explore and play around with it because it's really fascinating. You can see here as well, we calculate statistics on the data set to give an indication of, so I think a good example of that one is obviously the level of fishing protection. So let me just go back to that one. So you can see here that we have the distribution of the ranges within the whole data set of how many protected areas are coded at 5 or how many are coded at 1. We can also see here an indication of data quality, and this goes back to a little bit as Virgil was talking about. In some cases, it's difficult to see what the regulation actually does, and so you already can get a sense from this in the statistics. And this is the sort of just the high level sort of summary of the data set. And I would encourage you all to just have a little look around those columns. That is really interesting. If you wanted to work with that data, we have this tool called Explore Table. So I'm just going to jump straight into that. And whilst I'm thinking about it, because I forgot to do this last time, well, it's loaded now. I just wanted to show the sort of the vector tiles API that we have, which also sort of is another way of sort of viewing data. So here you can kind of zoom in and you can get information about individual areas. But going back to the, and this is quite nice for visualizations, going back to the Table Explorer. This is a way of sort of working and filtering with the entirety of the Protected Seas data in the web app. So for example, if I wanted to filter by country, and that's just followed Virgil's example of New Zealand, you can filter by country, and then you can get all of the marine protected areas-based protection in New Zealand. If I wanted to go one step further and filter for only those that are most protected from fishing, we can also do that. If I find my level of fishing protection. So I can say I'm only interested in those which are above level 3 of the coding. And you can see here that filters it down now to 278. You can export that as a Parquet or a CSV or a GeoJSON. We're also working on a feature where you could save that to Ocean Data Platform so that that would then appear in your private data space and you could work with that. And then, of course, you could access that by API. But I just wanted to sort of like show a couple of features of this now. You can, of course, you can zoom in and look at different areas of New Zealand. Because there's a few sort of data, a few pages, I'll just zoom into this one. I was kind of like interested just to play around with the data set, and I'll show some examples of what I was playing around doing. So here you can see for a specific MPA, you can get all of the information on how the purpose of the MPA, what the restrictions are, what's allowed in that area, and also the regulations. And the column which I'm really interested in is this species of concern. So you can see here that this area identifies a number of different species that would be protected in this area. And for the purposes of this webinar and to sort of show how we sort of see people working with ODP, I wanted to do a little study myself. So I saw here that this is great. It gives me a really long list of species that this area protects. And I thought, well, what would be really nice is if I could match these up to occurrence records in GBIF or OBIS. And to do that, I would need the scientific name, which isn't written here. So what I've done is created a little app that matched the common names here with the scientific name using an LLM to sort of do the translation layer and some verification steps, of course. And what I wanted to do is then show you how I might share that data on ODP and work with it on ODP. So if I go over to the My Data page, this is where I can upload my own data. And it's quite easy to just create a new data set. I'm not going to do the sort of whole thing now because I've done, as we Brits say, prepared one earlier. But here you can see if I create a new data set, I can upload files, and I also get my unique identifier. But going over to here's one I prepared earlier. I've created this small data set called Species Taxonomic Mapping for Marine Protected Areas linked to Protected Seas Navigator. And you can see here I've filled out more metadata descriptions. I could actually, for example, link back to the original Protected Seas dataset. So if somebody wanted to sort of see which dataset this was associated with, then they could see that. So what I'm going to do now is just show how you can upload your own data to ODP. So I'm just going to select files, and that's then loading that up. And I'm just going to upload the CSV that I've created as part of my analysis. I can bring that into the platform using a couple of steps to just click ingest. And what that will do then is ingest that as a table in the same way that we present Protected Seas Navigator. So you can see here that I have all of it's very similar look here on the my data side. I can do the same kind of filtering as I could do using data in the public catalog. A couple of other things I can do now that I've uploaded this data and put it into the platform. I can manage my access, so I can give access to different people. So for example, if I wanted Virgil to have access to this, or he can edit this, I think I can trust Virgil to edit it, but maybe I would only want some people to view it. I can do that. I could also share this publicly. So if I wanted to share this with everybody in this webinar, I could create this as a public link and share that link, and then everybody with access to that link would be able to access the data. I could also, if I want to, and maybe I will once I'm confident with the mappings that the LLM has done, I could request to publish this into the public catalog of ODP, so everybody on the platform would have access to use it. And so what I'm going to do with that is a little bit of analysis, and actually what I wanted to do is show how you might use that in practice. So I've made a small collection of a private collection of data called Protected Seas Analysis, which contains my species dictionary. I'm going to create a new data set called Results. And what I'm going to do now is just create it and not going to upload anything. I'm going to just remember this unique identifier. And I'm going to show you how you can also work with the Ocean Data Platform if you are familiar with coding. In my case, I'll do it in Python. As I say, we also have an R SDK, so if you wanted to do work with R, then that's also possible. So what I'm going to do is just head over to a Colab environment, and here you can see I'm just going to be doing a few things. If you follow along with this, then great. If you don't follow along with it, don't worry. This is just showing you how you install the Python SDK, how you authenticate yourself against ODP so that you can actually pull data from ODP. And then this is kind of like the main part is this is the protected seas unique identifier. I've also done a query on New Zealand. And then I'm returning all of the data that's in ODP. And of course, you can do many different queries. You can query by name. You could also do geospatial queries. So if you're interested in getting protected seas data from a single point or doing a spatial query, then you could do that. There are many different things, and I'm not going to go into too much depth now, just to say that those things are possible. You can also filter by specific columns, and then of course you can visualize it in a workspace environment. Then I'm going to do a very similar thing here, and this is where it's going to be. I just need to go back and grab my. Actually, I can do this in real time. Okay. Because I did it for a different one. So let's just repeat that process. So what I'll do here is just upload that again into this one, and then head back over to my Colab environment, and I'm just going to now grab that. So this works in real time. This is actually the reason it failed is because I hadn't uploaded it. So now it works, and that's good. The analysis that I'm doing in this example is actually grabbing now the scientific name of those species that were matched against the species of concern in protected seas for a specific MPA, and then that's not going to work. Okay, should have done this before. I'm actually, well, what I would normally do is then grab that for OBIS and get those species of concern for OBIS. But of course, when I do live demos, sometimes things don't work. And then in this final step, I would then re-upload that data to ODP, and you can see that has worked before. Unfortunately, not this time. If I have some time at the end, I might just figure out how to do it. And then what would happen is when I go back to my results data set, I would have that in the results. I can actually show you an example from another project from another webinar of how that looked. If you're interested, this is actually a one that Gustav, who's on the line, was working with. So if we go over to the this one. So it's not there. Okay. Sometimes things don't want to work out for you, so that's all right, not a problem. I can show that at the end. The idea is that you can then re-upload your data programmatically. So that's a little bit of everything with Ocean Data Platform. You can browse public data and you can find protected seas data there. You can also upload your own data and share it with colleagues. And then also the one thing that I didn't mention was the workspace environment where you can go in and you can work directly with the data using Jupyter Lab. And if you're logged into the platform, then you're authenticated. It's the easiest way of coding with ODP. We have a number of different other things that I'm not going to go into too much detail about. We have a lot of documentation on the platform of how you can work with Python SDK, the R SDK, or the OGC Features API for connecting with GIS applications. And there's a number of different features that I would encourage you to explore in your own time. So with that, I think I'll say thank you very much, and note to self to always test the demo before you do it live, even if you've done it 2 weeks ago and nothing's changed. But there you go. If you have any questions, we're very happy to have them in the chat. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Gustav now to do a few interactive polls and questions.
Thank you, Tom. I think you did that on purpose to make us feel human. And thank you, Virgil, as well. I just want to take you through a couple of questions to see what you thought about the webinar, and I'm gonna just get us started with the first one. It's just 3 questions, so bear with us. Yeah, so first of all, if you can describe your experience of this webinar with a word or a couple of words. And by the way, the questions stay live during the webinar, so if you can't think of one now, then you can come back as I cycle through these, but have a go. I'm going to try to give Tom some extra time to fix that code, so I think we can give it a half a minute or so.
I've figured it out.
Of course you have. I'm going to take us through the questions, Tom, first. And yeah, like Tom said, feel free to post questions in the chat. We'll address them. And if you want to, verbalize them after this, you can as well. Okay, great. We're getting some good responses. Informative, awesome, motivated. Nice words. Thank you very much. Okay, so I will launch the second question. And the question is, which part of the webinar was most relevant to you? So the introduction on protected seas by Virgil, how it's actually implemented on the catalog and what you can do there to find, explore, and filter and access data. Is it the My Data section to use the same functionality for your own work and collaborate on your own data with others? Is it the actual powerful analysis you can do through the ODP's SDK, or is it the sharing of your data publicly on the platform? And you can do a multi-select here if you find them all equally interesting. I'm going to give that just a second for you to think of. And then I think I will move on to actually the last question. Okay, so the last question that we have today was what kind of support on the Ocean Data platform would help you most? So are you interested in a diving deeper webinar series where we go in much more detail on the specific functionalities of ODP? Is it handheld training sessions or courses that are much more interactive than a webinar can be? Online support, chats, documentation and examples, or you don't really need it. You're the kind of person who just go test and explore yourself. Okay, so while you answered that, let's see if we have any questions. Tom, we do have a question in the chat. Have you had a chance to look at it from Callie?
Yeah, that's great. Let me just read through it. Good stuff.
I can read it out.
Yeah,
Or
that'd be great if you could read it.
would you like to voice it yourself?
There's a really good question, Callie, and I'm happy to sort of just show some sort of information on that. So
Tom, can you repeat the question first?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, I wonder if Callie is an ESG consultant and data scientist. Found the webinar very useful, so good, thank you. I wonder if there's any data available on the platform related to business activities in the ocean, for example, shipping paths, drilling sites, which could be potentially useful for TNFD. And actually, it's a great question. We do a lot of work on TNFD, and I'm not going to go into all of the detail now because actually we're thinking of organizing a webinar probably in the new year exactly on that. What I will maybe just show is a few things that we do have in the platform that might be interesting for you to just dig into now. I figured it out, by the way, Gustav. I made a V2 version of this notebook, and that's why it wasn't working. So one of the things that we've been focusing on in the last couple of months is to try and get a comprehensive data set on data sets on both where regulations exist in the marine environment, and that's why we have this excellent partnership with Protected Seas. We've also been working on looking at getting data on where ecosystems are in the ocean, so that you can start to think in the TNFD context. You can start to think about overlapping activities with sensitive areas of the ocean. So I mentioned coral reefs as an example. We've also got mangrove data sets, or cold water coral. There's a lot of things there that you can kind of go into and just have a look around, and I would just encourage you to do that. We've also got a few things like there's a really nice data set on whale ship collision risk assessments. So this is a really nice collection of data that you could look at if you're interested in assessing the potential risk of shipping on whales. And I won't go into detail, but we can certainly be very happy to have a call, Callie, with you if you're interested in finding out more about the work that we're doing in the context of TNFD, or we can also organize a webinar on that. So there are quite a few things in there, but I won't go into too much detail now. But great question, thank you.
Okay, we have another one from, I'm going to say this wrong, Gail. Hello, thank you for this webinar. I'm a PhD student in marine social ecological system, and I hope to use ODP in my research. Just a quick question regarding Protected Seas Navigator. How does it compare with the world database on protected areas and/or the Marine Protection Atlas in terms of information it contains and the potential uses for that database?
Great. So yeah, I'll field that one. So the good way to think of it is Protected Seas is very much a superset of the WDPA. So we don't use WDPA as primary source because it actually has a fairly restrictive derivative products and use license. And that's one of the reasons, very original reasons we started Navigator over 10 years ago, because we felt like this type of information should be open access. The other is, and I'll just say for MPA Atlas, their primary focus is on WDPA sites. So their coverage, for the most part, is going to be with the WDPA. Again, we start our research going directly to management authorities, and what we find is there's often a 15% or more mismatch in sites in the WDPA versus sites we actually find in the sort of original country source. And that's for a lot of reasons. But the other big difference is, again, and I love Tom's graphs that he showed of our attributes, our fill rates. You know, if you go into WDPA, you might, I'm guessing, but I'm guessing fill rate on the individual attributes might be well less than 60%. So for any given attribute that might be there for an area, you've got a high likelihood they didn't put a link to a management plan. They didn't actually tell you if it's a no fish area. In Navigator, our fill rate's around, I think, 98%. So, if you're trying to do an assessment, again, some of our activities we may have to tell you over and over, we don't know, but that's different than not knowing if sort of we tried to get the information. So, I would say, if you're looking for an analysis on a distinct set of attributes and you find them in Navigator, our hope would be you're going to find the data set responsive to that. So you don't have to worry that we got that for one country, but not another.
Thank you, Virgil. I see we had I actually answered it in the chat now too. We had a question on if there's where the hardware of Hub Ocean is located, as I understand the question, and if there's any chance of losing ODP access or backups due to US government decisions. So we are based on Azure, on Microsoft, but the platform and everything is hosted here in Europe. So It's under European regulations.
And then there was also a question about open source, and Virgil, I think you answered that one in the chat, that Protected Seas Navigator is open source, and it's you on Ocean Data Platform, all of the licenses are set by the data provider. So you set the license as CC BY, which is about as open as licenses come. So, but of course, other data providers may decide to have different licensing conditions. And as you mentioned, Virgil, there are other data sets that don't have such open licenses to be able to use it. So we're really happy that this data set is CC BY.
Yeah, and I'll just add for Gail, for one of the attributes in Navigator is WDPA ID. So where we do have sites that we've for sure matched to a WDPA site. So if you've done pre-existing work with WDPA, you could link into Navigator pretty easily anywhere we found matches to get the additional info.
Okay. While we are waiting for, there's no more questions that I see now, right? Please keep posting them if you have them. I might just take us through quickly the questions you submitted. If you haven't seen them, they're in the chat. So just to comment on the one where you were interested in the webinar, a lot of you came to watch Virgil, which is great to see, and very interested also in the catalog. And Tom, you actually scored a fairly good percentage on your data analysis, maybe even more so when you succeed in the end. I think we have no one here going for the my data, and of course just the platform and the way you analyze it is quite dependent, of course, how you can modify and work with data. So they're kind of connected. The ability you get when you can store and work with this power in your own space. So as you will see when you get your hands a bit deeper on the platform. Okay, and no one wants to share data on the platform. We'd love more data on the platform, so hopefully you'll come around to that and have some good content that others can take part of. And then on the training and support, there's quite a few of you that are interested in going deeper in webinars. So that's something we're planning to do in the early part of next year. And you might get a question or two about your specific interest. And then and documentation and examples, of course. Many of you want that. So great, thanks for that input. That's very helpful for us.
Gustav, there was a question in the question and answers, and I don't fully understand the difference between the chat and the question and answers, but it exists, and we're happy to take that question from Rebecca. The question was, can the platform integrate local data from Mozambique to facilitate community monitoring? And the answer is absolutely yes. One of the use cases that and we had a webinar on this last week that Gustav, was more of a workshop that Gustav organized, was working in the Wire region for integrating local data sets with these kind of more global data sets and showing how these two can work together. So absolutely, and very happy to talk through that further. And Gustav, I think you're in the best position to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, this is ultimately up to the user. From a technology standpoint, it's not hard to do. But we have a use case for that we're working with for Besaruta Marine Science Center in Mozambique, actually, where we're looking how we can support their data flows. They have their own sort of place of storing data, but they're interested in using this kind of technology as well, and also use it to have the ability to play with access levels as they share specific data for certain science use cases and so on. So that's going to be a great one when they're ready, and we take that a bit further. But definitely this sort of local to global, I think, is a very important movement to lift up an ability to work with the local good data sets and bring them together with I mean, I think Protected Seas is a great example of a very high quality global data set. But of course, there's always going to be lots of local data that needs to go with it, or maybe complement it even. Yeah. And yeah, I would say also, I mean, if you have questions of this kind and want to get some support, you're more than welcome to contact us, and we will help you as well. We have another one. I see. How are you expecting to, from Christian Diaz, how are you expecting to engage local admins from protect areas to use on these tools? Did you get that question, Tom?
Yeah, so I think, Christian, that's it's a good question about how local administrators can use tools like the platform, and actually, Virgil, I know that you've talked to us about this before, about how protected seas can actually be sometimes more informative in some parts of the world than others, and that's not even identifying specific areas. I mean, I think also even in North America or Europe, sometimes this data set is actually more informative than you might get, and it's certainly an easy place. It's an easy entry point to get data on marine protected areas. So I think that there is. You can probably talk a little bit about how this is also being used as a tool by local admin and administrators of MPAs.
Sure. So we're definitely trying to raise awareness in the marine spatial planning communities of practice through IOC, UN IOC, and others. The platforms available. I'll maybe speak a little bit for Tom and the partnership, but I think our organizations are mutually interested in capacity building for protected area management. So if there are opportunities where we can, virtually, or if there's significant interest, even potentially in person, put together a workshop or training. We've built these tools to be used, and we're experts in certain things, but far from experts in everything. And particularly, related to management, we really do need to hear from practitioners on, what really is the most helpful, and maybe where the gaps are in our tools. And, as technologists, we can hopefully work on those. So, I just say, we are constantly, like, through things like this webinar, trying to get the word out on availability and access, but, we're always open to opportunities to do more direct sort of hands-on training.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Virgil. Fully support that point. And sometimes just working with people is certainly much nicer and impactful. Good stuff. Yeah, you go.
Tom, is this your time to shine? Are you ready to do that last final hooray, or whatever you do?
I've figured it out, and I've done it, but I think it's all right. I don't need to show it. Thanks, Gustav.
Okay. So is there any last question to Virgil or Tom before we close this session? And I just want to thank you both. I think this was really nice, and thank you, the audience, for all the questions you asked, and for the polls you answered, and very much to look forward to see you back on the Ocean Data platform. And we do have a last question. Anyway, maybe just a comment. Congrats from Christian. Are doing great work here for conservation and public awareness. It's been useful, at least in Colombia. Okay, great to know. Okay, so thank you all for today. Looking forward to see you back on the platform. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Any last word, Tom? Virgil?
No, I just posted something in the chat just to say thank you everybody for joining today, and hope you all got something out of it in different ways. That was the intention of this, and certainly we are open. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. And Virgil, I'll leave you to say a few words, but I know that you're also as open as we are to collaborate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just thank you everyone for tuning in today. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions or needs. And again, we also appreciate all the work all of everyone on the other side of this webinar is also doing towards our common goal of a healthy and sustainable ocean. So thanks everybody for your contributions.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, closing.